Hey there, you're listening to Nine on the TV podcast. This is episode 71, the week of January 18th, 2025. My name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co-host, Mads Sassy. Mads, how we doing?
I'm good. Very long week.
The weeks, they do be long.
I also am just not looking forward to Monday. So...
Yeah.
And I've been slightly sad that TikTok is going away. Even if it is temporary, it's still kind of sad because, like, what do you mean I won't have my mindless entertainment at the end of the day?
I'm still in like winter weather advisory nonsense where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be 2 degrees tomorrow.
Fun.
That's just I just patently refuse.
We're supposed to have winter weather tomorrow too.
Jesus Christ!
Winter weather advisory for I think we're supposed to get close to 6 inches.
Yeah, I just put up the weather app and it's like on Wednesday it's gonna be -2. No, I'm just I don't want to see more.
Yeah, it's cold.
It's cold, guys. Yeah, it's really rough. We will persevere. Same goes for our TV schedule in January, which is so weird.
It's very slow.
Not a lot going on right now. We got full week, but there's just not a lot going on. So let's jump into some news real quick. The first piece of news that I would like to mention here is that over the week, David Lynch passed away.
Yep.
David Lynch, who is most notable, notable for a great many things, but notable for this podcast in particular, for creating Twin Peaks, which is a massively influential show. You don't get a lot of shows without Twin Peaks. You just flat out don't get them.
It somehow is timeless.
It was timeless. Yeah. No, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was like, you don't get lost without a lot of shows. You know, the X-Files, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Survivor. You especially don't get lost without Twin Peaks.
Right.
Such a foundational text of weird television to the extent that 30 years later we still don't know what Twin Peaks is truly about.
And we love Kyle MacLachlan for yearly making a tribute post to this show.
Oh yeah, I saw the New Yorker did a cartoon about David Lynch's death, and it's David Lynch at like the pearly gates in front of St. Peter, and St. Peter goes, "So who killed Laura Palmer?" And I saw somebody else going, Twin Peaks was vague about a great many things in multitude. Yep. That is very much not one of them.
No.
If anything was ever stated explicitly on that show, it is who killed Laura Palmer. If anyone listening to this podcast ever finds themselves wondering who killed Laura Palmer, you need to go rewatch Twin Peaks.
It's clear that the person who did that for the New Yorker didn't watch the show, and then they just decided to Google what is Twin Peaks.
Right. This is like the people from like people who don't like Lost going, so what were the polar bears about? My guy.
That's one of the only answers we ever got.
It's a really clear-cut answer. You need to try like a little bit harder at your analysis. Just the tiniest bit. But no, like Twin Peaks was such a truly foundational text, and like I think someone was talking about Twin Peaks and this idea of like, especially in like Twin Peaks Return, this idea of like Twin Peaks is like this place that you can't ever truly go back to.
Mm-hmm.
And that idea of with David Lynch gone, truly we can't ever go back there because no one else would ever be able to capture Twin Peaks in the way that David Lynch did. Just the level of kind of macabre weirdness. Like, you say Lynchian, and that evokes a very specific image in your brain that just is fully encapsulated within Twin Peaks.
He was a very diabolically complicated creator.
Right. Yes.
But like in a really good way. Like you were like, okay, you knew it was going to be a messy story with a lot of like weird shit going on, but
Mm-hmm.
you knew you were going to like it because he did a good job of stringing everything together in a way that entertained.
Which was really clear in the second season, where David
Mm-hmm.
Lynch was not present for most of that season, uh, when it just went to absolute and utter shit. You can try to David Lynch, but no one else could be David Lynch. A truly singular eye will be greatly missed, and allegedly died because of the fires in California.
Yep. The air quality didn't help his condition.
Lynch had already stepped away from public life, and I believe it was COVID that had like really destabilized his like immunocompromised state, and then the fires came and it just kind of wiped him out. I think just well and truly, fully, or at least that is the
Mm-hmm.
impression that is currently being given. So Matt, we're gonna do this. So if you want to brace yourself real quick.
Okay.
So last week, just after we finished recording, Vulture put out a perhaps the most damning piece of journalism, a piece of entertainment journalism I've seen in quite a while. Title of which I'm currently blanking on and don't have in front of me, but detailing the numerous and multitude of sins that Neil Gaiman has committed, which was so thorough in its evisceration of a single man that I was quite frankly impressed, and also, oh my god, that man is a monster. So Matt, I will get over to you now. Do you have any thoughts or comments on this? Just evisceration.
Honestly, the title of the article is called "There Is No Safe Word," which honestly, slightly grateful that J.K. Rowling was such a dumpster fire in the last 5 years that it's prepared me to be aware that some of these people that wrote books that shaped who I am are awful people, because it has helped me with the grieving process, because Neil Gaiman is one of my absolute favorite authors of all time. Some of his books have really are ones that I go back to multiple times. It took me a very long time to actually sit there and read the article because I'd heard through the grapevine what was in the article, and I had to determine with myself whether I wanted to read the details of it all. On the one hand, I'm kind of glad I did, just so that I can be like, okay, yep, I read that. I know exactly what it said. But on the other hand, I'm like, that is something I'm not going to forget anytime soon, and it's very disturbing and very upsetting. So yeah, I've kind of just not thought about him all week because it's been so bad. But yeah. Also, in case someone doesn't know this, if you have Audible and you have bought any of Neil Gaiman's books at any point in the time that you have owned an Audible account, you can contact the help chat and they will refund you your money for your Neil Gaiman books, no questions asked.
Oh, nice.
You don't even have to tell them what books you have. They will literally do the work for you. Just be like, I'm calling because Neil Gaiman, and they'll give you a refund.
I saw someone on Blue Sky talking about this the other day. Just saying like this man's career is effectively over. No one on the left is going to accept him after this point, and he has spent far too long being under the guise of a leftist person. He can't even do something that like Russell Brand did, you know? Like he can't pivot to the right.
Right.
So he's just done. He's just like no one on the left wants him and everyone on the right is like celebrating his demise. Everything that he did, everything that his career was, this is it. Like this is the footnote. This is all anyone's ever going to remember.
And it's very sad to think that, because he did have such a prolific career and was perceived as a quote unquote good person for so long. But then like people are now pointing to some of the things in his books that, like, hindsight's 2020. You're like, oh, huh, interesting. little information there. Like,
yeah, no, I remember when the Sandman came out, and I've never read the Sandman, but
mm-hmm.
the episode in the diner where everyone there like dies, and it like really going out of its way to kill the lesbian.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know that you needed to do that. And I look back on that and I was like, yeah, no, you didn't need to do that. So no, actually, explicitly didn't need to do that. And now it's doubly weird.
Yeah, and there's also been a lot of reference to another part of the Sandman where this guy's trying to become a famous author,
Right. I
and
was also thinking about that this week.
he receives a gift, which is a woman locked in the home that, and it's a muse, and he can do whatever he wants to her, and he will get the career that he wants. And it's like very, very sickening in its own context. But then to put it against these allegations and this information now released, and you're just like, okay, is that a self insert?
Well, it's also that I saw someone else talking about this of like the thing with people like Gaiman is they don't think they're bad. Like they can look at like something like, you know, that story and be like that's bad and not self internalize that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Can't like turn that inwards and go, oh no, I'm also bad. No, like they think they're some exception to that. But like that always reminded me of like the jokes that Bill Cosby used to tell about like in his stand-up routine of like drugging women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it was just there. It was just there for anyone to see. Yeah, and I certainly don't want to be the person that's like I never liked Neil Gaiman after, you know, he's a bad person. I will say that Gaiman stuff like never hit with me the same way it did other people. So I don't think I'm able to mourn this in the same way that like other people are mourning it.
Oh, absolutely.
Mourning a body of work because I don't like I said I never connected that strongly with it. Like I read
Mm-hmm.
American Gods and I thought it was fine, and obviously we
I really loved American Gods, and I really loved Good Omens, obviously. But I know not everybody likes American Gods. I know that. A group of friends and I went to see him do a reading at NJ Performing Arts Center early last year, and we were like talking this week about how we were like, he's such an eloquent speaker, and we could see where he could use his charm in a negative way. Yeah, we're all like, oh God, we supported this guy, all this stuff. So like I said, I'm having a lot easier time with this than I did the J.K. Rowling stuff, because J.K. Rowling was my first foray into having to at first separate the art from the artist, and then eventually just be like, no, I'm not engaging with that art at all, because the bad overshadows anything that might have been good about those books.
right.
And the same's going for Neil. Like, yes, I love these books, but now I can't even imagine opening them up again because I'm just so disturbed by him. Anyways, move on.
Move on. Yeah. Still no good this week. We're still in a catch up phase of this podcast. But we will be back to that hopefully shortly. Without anything else, let's move on into the main part of our show. So to kick off our week in TV, we are, as always, starting with Dimension 20, Misfits and Magic, Episode 4, We're the Heroes. And this is the proper end to Misfits and Magic, sort of. It's the end to this season.
Yes.
Which I always thought was like, it's kind of weird and clunky. Like, it's kind of awkward. Because it's almost like Abria was like, oh no, we don't have any more episodes. They didn't give us any more episodes to do. Here, we got some stuff here. We got a tournament. Yeah, a tournament. So I've definitely set up.
Yeah, and it felt very much like they weren't sure where they wanted it to go, so they didn't know how to end it. And so, like, it just felt very stilted compared to the other 3 episodes. Like, it felt like the other 3 had a clear a path as you can have with a tabletop game like this, that actions depend on roles and things like that. But, like, there was still, like, an overarching plan for where this was headed.
Mm-hmm.
And then this episode, it just felt very all over the place. Then we get to the last like 20 minutes and she's like, "Okay, now you need to like summarize where your characters go." Okay, cool.
Right, right. The whole episode felt like they're like, and we have to end this now. We don't have anywhere more. Our budget's been slashed. We have to end the show now.
It very much felt like that scene in Community where he comes back to the room with pizza and everything's on fire.
Right, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, we gotta have something climactic, and we gotta have our villain and other villains, and we gotta really amp stuff up, and we gotta have like really good through lines, but like it is paced within an inch of its life.
Yeah. She says something about dragons. I'm like, dragons? Wait, where are these dragons coming from?
And why didn't you bring this up just like even one time
We're
casually?
talking about the school and like, yeah, because supposedly this is like a tournament, like a normal thing. And it's like, but we've heard neither hide nor hair about this the entire time.
Right. Yeah. The not telling them being the point feels really convenient. Like I get that's the
Very
theme.
convenient.
I get that is like the point of the season, but also it's really fucking convenient. I think if this was like the actual end to Misfits and Magic, I would be a lot more down on it.
Hmm.
I'll say the Christmas special that comes after this like really helps. Helps a lot. But aside from that, there's a lot of really good stuff in this last episode. Like I like a lot of like what these main four get to do. I like more of the melding that Dream has in this episode, where we went from like the like goth chronically online to bubblegum princess, and I like in this episode where it's like we're really melding the two together, that it like works a
Hmm.
lot better. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And just like the vocal work that Eric is doing in this episode is so good. Just like finding that voice between like the goth and the princess, and then like somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like that final button of like or semi-final button of hers of like, and maybe I'm experimenting with they them, and it's like, oh, that's really good. It's really good.
I really appreciate how they came together to fight this dragon, and the nonsensical methods that they used.
Oh yeah.
They're nonsensical, but also like very logical comparative to people that have lived in the magical realm their whole
Mm-hmm.
lives.
Yeah.
Like, my phone has GPS. Let's just slap that sucker on the dragon, and it's like that's smart.
Right. Yeah. 100% you would do that. And then, not to make this about Brennan, but everything that Evan does in this episode is just kind of Brennan's on another level. His duel, where Brennan's just like, we're gonna do some shit right now. Hang in, buckle up. It's just really good. Like when Brennan's just saying the coldest things I think I've just heard any character on Dimension 20 do. Of just like, what do you want me to tell your family? It's just the sickest line.
Yeah.
And that entire sequence is just so cool. And especially like the back and forth between him and Abria,
Yeah.
where Abria's just like, if you give me a single inch, I'm gonna ruin your entire life. Just like that dynamic as they're rolling, and Brennan's trying to like not roll too high, which I think is like a really fun mechanic of like this system. Differentiates itself like in a fun way from like classic D&D, where it's like I got to crit, must crit, you know? And here it's like, no. If you roll too high, it could be bad.
I think that was one of those things that really made this particular session fun, was that rolls that you normally would be like, that's great, could actually be bad.
Right.
Um and so I think that made it a little more interesting and up the stakes a bit.
Mm. And again, that entire monologue from Brenna is just entirely sick. And then Sam's duel, where the other guy just doesn't want to be too mean to her.
Mhm.
It's just, it's really good. I really enjoy Sam being characterized as this person who's just so warm and bubbly that both like lets her tie into emotions really well, and also people kind of want to be nice to her.
Yeah.
That she's able to use to her advantage really well. What do you think about Evan and Dream getting together?
I think it's kind of cute. And they've had a nice little build up throughout the episodes
Mm-hmm.
that, like, now we've reached a point where Evan has kind of grown in himself because he has friends. And I think it's a, like, on paper, like, you wouldn't think this couple would be, like, making sense, but the way these two characters are played, it does. They very much complete each other and help each other out, where they kind of falter, and it's just, I don't know, it's cute. I liked it.
Yeah, yeah. I especially think it's good as like a. I mean, they never explicitly say like what their dating history is like, but I think it's good as like a like
Hmm.
first relationship. You know, you just kind of need someone that believes in you, and I think like Evan and Dream both have that with each other. So I think it
Right.
especially works in that.
Yeah, I do feel very compelled that Evan probably has not dated anyone else ever in his life.
No.
But I think it could also be still be considered a first kind of relationship for Dream, because Dream is finally discovering their true self, despite the mask that they've worn this whole time of, goth and all that, when really their true self is very feminine, very, very vulnerable in that way. And so I think it still works,
Mhm.
even if technically Dream might have a past with dating relationships.
Yeah, and I can definitely buy Dream having dated before.
Yeah.
Like, say what you will about the trope, the grumpy goth girl is gonna get kind of flat out how that is. And that the whole sequence in the tavern is so good.
Hmm.
Up until the point where they're like, "Oh no, we need to become a different kind of episode entirely." But everything up to that is like really good. Where you just have like Sam having game, and then Jammer having no game whatsoever, which I think is a really funny dichotomy. Because it's one of those things where it's like between the streamer girl and the jock, who do you think has game? And it's like, and it's just kind of subverting that is like really fun, I think. And then Rush though it may be, Filtrum being the bad guy of the season is, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really try to hide that fact, but it's perfect. She's the bad guy, and bears a, I'm sure, not passing resemblance to J.K. Rowling. But yeah, our next episode is the actual wrap up to Misfits and Magic with a Christmas special.
Okay.
Just, it's close enough. We just did Christmas. It's it's fine. It was only a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We're still in the ballpark.
It's fine. We're still in the technical season. How about that?
Exactly.
As long as we get it in before Valentine's Day, we're fine.
Let's move on to our next show. Harley Quinn, Season 5, Episode 1, entitled The Big Apricot. Harley Quinn is back, and we're in a new locale. We are in Metropolis.
So before we really dive into this episode, I have to say, Karen, this whole week, after work, has, like, come home and, like, turned on Big Bang Theory in the living room.
Mm,
Um, and so it was really funny to go from Wednesday night watching Big Bang Theory, and then Thursday morning, maybe it was Thursday night, Friday morning, whatever, I forget which day, doesn't matter. But going and watching Harley Quinn like first thing the next day and being like such a weird shift because, you know, Kaylee Cuoco on Big Bang Theory is not Harley Quinn.
Right.
But it's one of those like verbal triggers that I was just like, that voice does not match that character, even though I've never watched as much Big Bang Theory as I have in the last like week. So it's like it's weird. But yeah, anyway.
So how are we feeling about this change in setting?
I enjoy when this show decides to be just goofy silly because that's all this episode was. This episode was legitimately nothing super serious, just goofy silly. Yes, of course, there's the whole brainiac of it all at the very end or whatever, but it's still just goofy silly, and we like that. I like the idea of Superman being super depressed because there's nothing for him to do because of these robots. And the whole Bruce Wayne having to pretend like he's not Batman.
Yep. I will be honest. I did take a bit of psychic damage. Like my girlfriend, Lena. And I was like, oh.
Oh, right.
Cool.
You Supergirl fan.
I'm trying not to take it too seriously. Really and truly I am. And I know that a show is not responsible for anyone's headcanon.
Yeah.
That being said, I just want to get this out of the way. I just want to be a lunatic for like 5 seconds here. If you as a show are aware of a popular ship that was queer baited for a long time, and you decide to bring one of those characters, a largely non-canonical character into your show,
don't make them straight.
Don't make them straight. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, don't have them date Batman. I don't know. It's just weird. Also, I'm not getting into this. I've gotten into this too much already. But I will say, aside from that, I did really like Lita in this episode. I really enjoy Aisha Tyler, and I like the character design. That dress is amazing. And yeah, I enjoy this vibe of Lena Luthor. A very different vibe from the way that Katie McGrath played it, but still works a lot. And yeah, I enjoy Bruce Wayne just being a miserable sad sack.
Yeah. I think it's so funny that both him and Clark Kent / Superman were just very miserable this whole episode. It's like, what do you mean the females should take precedent? Oh, okay.
I do love the show. The episode doesn't bring up once that Superman can just go anywhere else.
Yeah.
There's nothing keeping him in Metropolis. He can just go be Superman anywhere. But this premiere is very fun. I didn't expect them to just skip Gotham City Sirens entirely.
Yeah.
That was, I don't want to say it's a pleasant surprise because I did want to see, more of that. But, I get it. I do get it. And I think making that more of a footnote and just, moving locales entirely, I think is a good choice. It feels a lot of like the way that like Archer ran for a few seasons. To make the Aisha Tyler connection, where Archer would just be like, yeah, we don't really want to do spy shit anymore. We're gonna be a we're gonna be a smuggling show for a couple seasons. And just like having that awareness to be like, yeah, we're gonna do something else for a while.
Right.
We did the Gotham stuff. We're gonna do Metropolis for a while, which I think is, very enjoyable. I think it gives it all a nice new tone. But yeah, it's just, this is a lot of fun. It's fun to be back in this world, in this particular version of the DC universe.
Yeah, I'm very happy that the show is back because I didn't realize I missed it until it was on my screen. I was like, God, I love these lesbians.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I saw people talking about this on Blue Sky, but it's like, yeah, Harley and Ivy might be the best relationship on TV.
Yeah.
Top 5 easy.
It's unconventional, but it works so well for them that I love their love.
Yeah, it's a great thing about being in season 5 where like they've had 3 seasons to build up their actual relationship. So they, you can be at the point where you can tell this story now. Kelly Kyoko and Lake Bell just have so much chemistry together.
Yeah, they do.
Like it's so good.
Yeah, I like that we get to be at a point where we can just do these. We're on a vacation, but we can't put our personalities aside for a vacation, so we have to cause some havoc on our vacation.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I'm also curious like what this show is going to do with Brainiac. Considering we
Hmm.
just saw a version of that character on My Adventures with Superman. Harley Quinn is much zanier and much more ridiculous. So I'll be interested to see like what they come up with.
Yeah, me too. Because I actually had thought I was losing my mind because I was like, didn't we already do this? And then I was like, no, Mads, different animated series, but same DC universe.
So let's continue on to our next show. And I'm gonna do an audible real quick. We're gonna skip Found. I realized what I didn't talk about and wanted to talk about earlier, because I didn't think we had room for it. But I will just talk about it now. So, Dirty Laundry, one of Dropout's shows where they have like 4 people come on and try to guess like each other's secrets.
Mm.
They had the cast of Star Trek Lower Decks. So they had Tawny Newsome, Noelle Wells, Eugene Cordero, and Jillian Vigman, who played Dr. Tana. And it was so much fun. They're all fully out of their minds.
Hmm.
um, it was the perfect episode to cap off like the end of Lower Decks. Noelle Wells is very adorable, and Tawny Newsome is well and truly out of her mind.
Yeah.
But also guessed everyone else's secrets perfectly. Did not miss one, which was very impressive. Which gave the all time great line of I can guess everyone on House Hunters International.
Hmm.
It's just very good. I kind of wish that either Jack Quaid or Gabrielle Ruiz could have been on this, because that would have been so much fun. But it was so really great, and they just
Yeah.
have absolutely batshit stories. Yeah, I would follow after this. I would follow Tawny Newsome and Noelle Wells to Hell and Back. They're just very
Hmm.
good. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that real briefly here because I'm gonna miss Lower Decks so much, and it was a lot of fun just to see them live and in person, or see them like actually doing things. Let's move on to our next show. Severance Season 2, Episode 1, entitled Hello, Miss Cobel. So, Severance is back after
Hmm.
3 long years. And
Yeah.
here's the problem I'm having here. The episode's very good.
Yeah.
There's also nothing in this episode that tells me that it should have taken 3 years to make.
I I told you this before we started recording, but I stopped season 1, and just it fell to the wayside because life gets busy, whatever. I had to go back to the very beginning because it's been so long since I watched these few episodes, and I was like, I remembered very much why I like this show. And then the new episode aired, and I agree, it's really good, but it's also we waited 3 years for this.
The episode opens on a shot that they want us to think is the one shot, which 100% is not.
Right.
Camera following him like down hallways and zipping around and zipping around. It's like you're taking corners too long for this to be a one shot. No, no. But also that shot took 5 months to film. If you're making a TV show and anything takes 5 months to do, don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Just real plain and simple. Don't fucking do it. Like, it's a great shot, not worth 5 months. And here's the thing: the 3-year gap so works against itself. And I have a great example of this in the form of Helly, where
yes,
there's one scene towards the end of the episode where she's talking to Mark. We already kind of think that that's not any Helly, but it's like, am I picking up on something that the show is wanting me to pick up on, or have they forgotten how to write this character? And the fact, like, if I have to wonder that because you've taken so long, that's a problem. That's a problem on you, the show. Again, so much of this I think is really good, but if I have to wonder if after 3 years you're still on your game, like, that's a problem.
mm-hmm.
Even though Helly 100% is an Audi.
Yeah,
Like, that is Audi Helly.
right. She doesn't quite fit.
Well, also like what she describes that she saw is 100% not what she saw.
Right.
So it's like it's Occam's razor. The simple solution in this case is they've just gotten rid of any Helly.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's a good plot twist. But I shouldn't have to wonder if you're writing this character correctly because it's been this long.
Right. And the thing that I really cared about coming into this episode is Irv. And I was not disappointed by Irv in this episode. So I feel like this episode is a win for me because coming into it, I'm like, I need to know that Irv is good and he, in some form, is with what's his name. And I'm like, at least the Audi version is. Like, at least we get something.
Right. Let's do some clownery for a second. How are we feeling about Irv and Dylan?
I'm sorry, what?
How are we feeling about Irv and Dylan? Those are some close-up scenes. All I'm saying is Irv and Dylan were really close up to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the show is setting something up.
Maybe. I honestly, I don't have many thoughts about Dylan overall. Um, he's an okay character. I just am not compelled by him necessarily. So, whatever they want to do, fine.
I'm very entertained by Dylan's just constant 0 to 100 in all things.
Yeah.
Like that's always been really funny to me. Yeah, I have so many questions about this about the things going on now. Although early contender for funniest line coming from Bob Balaban going, "Why are you a child?"
Mm-hmm.
That made me laugh really hard. And also, yes, why are you a child? No, I do think it's so essential that like we don't get to see like the outside world in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Where like so much of that is left up to your imagination and also what Milchick is telling them. So it's like anything could be happening. So it's so difficult to say at this point.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that Mark, his new team, he doesn't like his new team, and so he tries to set them up, but like he doesn't try very hard. And I was like, so what is the point of him trying if he's not going to try very hard?
Well, I think the whole point was like what he did. Like it was just as a distraction.
Yeah.
Like it was just all an ends to like so that he could talk to the board. Because that was like his only play.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah. I really did enjoy seeing Bob Balaban and Aaliyah Shawkat in this though.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bob Balaban fits the tone of this so profoundly well. Like it's so good. But yeah, I'm very interested in what the rest of these episodes is gonna bring, and if it ultimately proves worth it for a 3-year wait.
I'm gonna go with probably not.
Probably not.
Considering majority of shows that have that long of a wait between seasons, it's never fully felt worth that wait.
No. Although, counterpoint, we did get Keanu Reeves voicing a building.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
No, you can't hate Keanu Reeves.
You can't.
Because if you hate Keanu Reeves, then you're a walking red flag.
Let's move on to our next show. Duck, Season 1, Episode 2, entitled Try Again. So, how are we feeling about this?
I'm continuing to really like this show. I appreciate that it's continuing to not shy away from the fact that it's clear that everyone in this hospital has very complicated feelings about this woman.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not just giving her a pass on trying to redeem herself because of the fact that she doesn't remember the bad things that she's done. Like, especially like with her daughter. Like, she doesn't remember the strain that the relationship between her and her daughter has created in the wake of the death of her son. And so she thinks she can just, treat her daughter as she feels that she wants to treat her daughter. And her ex-husband comes up to her and is like, you need to give her space, because even if you don't remember it, it still happened. And I appreciate that the show's doing that on all levels, but that's like the example that like really popped in my brain from this episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's clear that she's a good doctor. I mean, she goes out of her way to try and solve this problem with her roommate, but she's not a good person necessarily.
No. What I also appreciate the way that like it demonstrates how far behind she is now, because she's missing 8 years of medical advancements and procedures and methodologies. And
Yeah.
I was writing this in my recap, but like even if you were just like post COVID stuff, wildly different.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to see how them approving for her to come back to work is going to play out, because they can say, that she can come back with restrictions or whatever, but the problem is she doesn't adhere to restrictions. We saw that in this episode.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if this episode taught her the lesson of being patient and taking her time and like trying to relearn these things that she's forgotten, or if she's going to be impulsive. If that impulsivity that we saw in this episode was truly an indicator of her TBI, or if it was just she's just anxious to get back to work because it's the thing that makes sense to her in her worlds,
right,
that's been turned upside down.
And like in that, I like this episode displaying like kind of the same behaviors that like her previous self had, like this need to like get back into the work and being really short and being kind of toxic with other people, which makes like both like the present and the flashbacks like work really well together, because like you get to see like the decline of that, and the way that like she does become this like worse person, this worse version of herself,
Right.
And how you can already see like some of that still playing through in the present.
Absolutely.
I liked a lot of the flashback stuff, particularly like the Scott Wolf stuff, where it's like you can kind of see like the way that their working relationship is deteriorated and how it like began, or like where it was 8 years ago, where it's like he is still friendly, like he's still friendly with her, he's still like trying with her, even if like a lot of it is still very much shaded in like self-serving attitude.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's still like, hey, we're friends, and I'm doing like an actual normal human thing with you, and hey, you can't talk to people that way. It's a nice like parallel.
And I like that it's showing us that no matter what, she still has this one person in her corner, which I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily for the person that's still in her corner, but it does show that, like, yeah, she has tried to push everybody away and be this toxic person, but this one friend still sees the goodness in her and is like, okay, I'm gonna be your friend. I'm gonna do these things for you. And we see that especially in this episode when she like takes her home and hands her a new phone and says, "Here is your phone programmed with this number, and this number. That's all you really need right now." Like, it's showing that she wants her to get better, but she's also protecting her from learning too much at the wrong time.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting like shading of that like friendship, like a really interesting characterization. Also, the patient Simone, I spent part of the episode being like, where do I know her from?
Mm.
And she was the mom from Orphan Black Echoes.
Oh, that's where she's
Yeah,
from.
she was the adopted mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun to see her pop up again. But yeah, I'm also really enjoying Doc.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to our next show, The Pitt, season 1, episode 3, entitled 9 a.m. I didn't really think about this too strongly with like the first 2 episodes, but I don't know how well this like real time format is gonna work.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I feel like it's dragging it out a little bit, but I'm wondering if they're going to continue the real time format the whole way through, or if it's just like a to a certain point. Like we're say like it's like a first half of the season, it'll just be like a particular day, and then they cut into doing different days with each episode. I don't know. Like, it's hard to say because I feel like ER did that a few times where it was like a chunk of episodes were all pretty much the same day. And then they were like, okay, we're done with this big arc of story. We're going to move on and we're going to do different days for each episode now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know.
What I do think the ER connection is really crucial because I think part of this is them going like, we want to do ER, but we also don't want to do exactly ER. So what can we do? And they just came up with like real time format,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which may end up working out for them. It seems like this is what they're gonna stick with.
It also doesn't hurt that the story doesn't feel like you have to believe that it's still the same day.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I think it works out well enough that the time frame itself is not crucial to the story being told. It's just going to add to the whole insanity of you are an ER doctor and all of these things have happened in the first 3 hours of a shift.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
beyond that, though, it's not crucial to the meat of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not going to matter too much, but it'll be there.
Right. So I watched both the second episode and the third episode this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to mention the thing that made me hilariously laugh for like 5 minutes from the second episode.
Okay.
When Trinity and Victoria are like bickering at the nurses station,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just going back and forth at each other, and then it just cuts to the two nurses working behind the desk, and they just have this outrageous look of just their eyes darting back and forth between the two girls, and just just really amused look. Like, these two are either going to beat the shit out of each other or fuck in a closet, and I don't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah. They continue to really use the social worker, which I really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And I also appreciate that they didn't shy away from the dad of the 18-year-old overhearing that another kid who took the same drug as his son is doing just fine now, because like that's such a normal emotional reaction to something like that. You're like, well, why my fucking kid? And I appreciate that they showed him freaking out and like causing a fight.
And to that point, I was thinking about the mom. It's like, if you need someone to like really outrageously freak out, you get Samantha Slayan.
Yeah.
If you want someone to like really be unconsolable and you feel weird about it, that's who you get. That's 100% who you get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her just pardon the term, but like almost like hysterical crying. It's just she does that so well.
Mm-hmm.
Just that like very like almost over the top screaming, crying. Like it's just very good.
Also, I appreciate the very real, very minor detail that the entire third episode, Dr. Robbie is really just trying to get to the bathroom.
I did love that.
He's like, I just really need to go to the bathroom. Can someone please just let me go to the bathroom?
It's such
Because
a good
as
joke.
someone who used to be a teacher, I appreciate the reality of that.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell, especially with the middle-aged children of the elderly man that he knows is circling the drain, and they just don't want to like own up to, like, they don't want to face the reality of it. He's like, I really need to pee. Can you guys just take your dad off the goddamn ventilator and let me live my life? Like,
Mhm.
just let him die, please.
Yep.
It's one of those things that I'm like, Noah Weil is very good at facial expressions because you could just see the frustration in his face and the resignation that he is never going to get to go to the bathroom.
What if this is just his season-long struggle of being able to go to the bathroom?
Dr. Robbie, do you need to go to the bathroom? Yes, sorry, that's not
It's
happening.
just not happening.
Episode 15, Dr. Robbie finally goes to the bathroom.
Yeah, I really like the performance that Noah Weil is giving. I was thinking about just like kind of the physicality of him now,
Hmm.
and I was like, there's something about this that like feels familiar, and I was like, I can't put my finger on it. And then I was like, it. I kind of figured it out. It's some mix of like Elliot Stabler and Dr. Cox,
Hmm.
but like in like a more gentle, tone. Like if you just kind of smash both of those two together, and they just became like this gentler man.
So, okay, you are smashing together those two characters and then Noah Wile's ER character, Dr. Carter.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, Dr. Carter, if he was also mixed in with Dr. Cox and Elliot Stabler.
Exactly. It's like it's that personality type if it had those two's like physicality, you know?
Yes.
Like there's one scene where even though he does this a lot where he just has his arms crossed and his arms are just fucking massive. And I was like,
Oh my God, yes.
what is this? I was like, what is this reminding me of? And I was like, oh, right. Yeah.
It reminds you of Elliot Stabler. When he does that, it literally makes me think of Elliot Stabler more so than Dr. Cox, just because Elliot Stabler has a tendency to have his sleeves up when he crosses his arms, and Dr. Robbie always has his sleeves up. And so it's like, okay, now that you've said Elliot Stabler, I'm like, that's what it
Yeah.
is. That's because I was trying to figure it out too. I was like, he reminds me of a different character. What am I being reminded of?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whitaker this episode is very interesting as well. He continues to intrigue me because it's clear that he has the capabilities to be a great doctor. He just has the anxiety of someone that's clearly in over their head. And it's like, you're going to grow into this. I know you are because I know the character type,
Mm-hmm.
but it's fun to watch you grow and flounder in order to reach that point.
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna talk about a character with anxiety,
Oh my God.
Melissa,
Yes.
just
I love the awkwardness of episode 3 where she's trying so hard to be what's her name's friend,
oh yeah,
and that girl is more interested in being friends with Javadi, and Javadi wants nothing to do with it. So it's like really funny, this whole dynamic of 3 different people wanting friendship from different people.
yeah, but yeah, like whew. Melissa just has such strong anxiety. Like every time that she tries to high five someone,
It's so
I just want
awkward.
to like climb out of my skin.
Also, when she like claps after Dr. Whitaker says his piece, like I'm just like, girl.
Yeah, she wants so badly to be like personable, and relatable to the other people. Yeah, if there's any character on this show that like should not be working in an ER, I think it is her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoy her a lot, and I like Taylor Durden so much, but
Yeah.
this is not a personality type suitable to an ER. And I also really enjoy uh Giovanni trying to figure out what is going on with McKay. Of like,
Yes.
why does she have an ankle bracelet? And I appreciate the show not giving us an answer about that because it is none of our business.
Right. Yes. And I love that it's clear that McKay has a great repertoire with everyone in this ER because no one acts as though they don't trust her judgment on anything.
Yeah.
And so it's very fascinating to have that juxtaposed with the fact that she has an ankle monitor on. So clearly, like, if we're looking at just the paper format of these characters, you would see the words ankle monitor and you'd be like, okay, that's someone you can't trust. But no, she's probably one of the more knowledgeable people on staff, and she has a way about her that is very trustworthy.
Yeah.
So you don't really want to know really what the story is, but you also kind of do.
Yeah, yeah. And I enjoyed that conflict within Giovanni of like, I want to know, but also she's a mentor type person. I enjoy her not knowing how to proceed with it
Yeah.
and really hoping that someone will just tell her what's going on. That
Mhm.
if she just kind of casually brings it up, someone might divulge it. But she so strongly does not want to just out and out ask someone what's going on.
Yeah.
Also, I continue to really enjoy the one surgeon who just keeps coming in, and she's like, fuck you, I'm out." Fuck, I'm gonna cut, I'm
Yes.
out.
Yeah.
She's so I love her energy. It's so enjoyable.
So enjoyable. I'm also really liking the male nurse that has tattoos all over him and a piercing in his ear. I'm like, you are way too edgy and cool to be in an ER. What are you doing here? But also, I love you.
Yeah.
Also, I appreciate that one of the staff members' names is Princess because when Dr. Robbie says, Princess will take care of you, I'm just like, it sounds so funny that that's actually her name.
Hmm. Also, I love that we're not immediately dealing with the rats.
No, it continues to be just a small problem that just crops up every once in a while.
And everyone's just like, if I see a rat, I'm gonna beat your ass.
None more so than Dr. Collins. She's like, I'm at. There's clearly some past history with her and Dr. Robbie.
Hmm.
And so the whole scene with her getting up on the bed because there's a rat and he's just like teasing her and making fun of her, and it's like, no, bro, a lot of people have a very real aversion to rats.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, we were taught in school that rats spread the Black Death. So that's gonna stick with
Yep.
us. Yeah. This is such an interesting show on like a patient level.
Hmm.
Because we bounce from patients so erratically that every time we come back to a patient, it's like, oh right.
I'm used to that setup because, again, it's very similar to how ER handled things.
Right.
It is a very realistic flow for an emergency room situation because I do think, like, especially when you see Dana come along and remind Dr. Robbie of a patient. He's like, "Oh, right, yes, I have that person that I need to go talk to because their loved one was brought in and didn't make it." Or, "Yes, I need to go talk to those parents and try to convince them to do something about their child because he is brain dead." Like, he has to be reminded himself, just like us, the viewers, have to be reminded that these characters still exist.
Right. Yeah.
um, and there's not going to be an easy flow to it because that's just not how ERs work. I spent a lot of time in ERs in the year of 2024. I got used to understanding that it's chaos.
Yeah, no, the last time I was in the hospital for my heart, just the doctor just like whips past my room and goes, "You got to eat some bananas, man. Got to get that potassium up," and he was gone. So yeah, yeah, that does feel right.
The next episode is one that is written by Noah, so that'll be interesting.
That's interesting. Let's move on to our next show. High Potential, Season 1, Episode 9, entitled The Rams. So what do you think of this episode?
It was, again, this show continues to be one where I don't really remember the cases that they're working, but I remember the shenanigans between the characters. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing with regards to television.
Here's a question I have. What was the point of Tom?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Why did we introduce this character if he's just gonna leave?
I wonder if they potentially thought he was gonna stick around and then he didn't. I don't know.
Or is this a red herring? If it's a red herring, it's a very dumb red herring.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the point of this is. I will say, I am enjoying Karadak more. I think that actor is growing into that character a lot better, and he just has a lot more life to him. Even though the show, the episode does not either forgets or actively does not bring up what his second favor from the DA was, which I thought was very interesting, which implies that he might have had sex with the DA.
Probably. I mean, I do appreciate that. So I've liked Daniel Sunjata since forever ago when he did Graceland. However, this show, I was like, maybe I just only like him in certain things. I wasn't sure but now I'm thoroughly convinced that it was just the writing, that there wasn't much writing for the character. So his efforts were falling flat. Because like you said, this episode really gives us a bit more with him, and finding myself intrigued by this character more the longer we spend in this universe. Because I don't know if people remember, but when we first started talking about the show, when the first episode aired, I was like, I don't care about the detective guy, which is sad because I like Daniel Sunjata. Well, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, and I think his chemistry with Kayla Olsen is a lot better now.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better.
Yeah. And it's so funny to watch Caitlin Olsen after we just watched her on Abbott Elementary. Just like, oh yeah, she is just very funny. This character isn't wildly different from D, but there are enough variations on that to be like, oh yeah, I can see the adjustments,
Yeah, and I laughed a lot with the part of the episode where she's talking, her and wow, I can't say his name. I don't know why I'm having a problem. Her and Karadasic are talking about the fact that she brought her kid to work, and he's like, couldn't have gotten a babysitter. And she very much snarks back at him, gee, I didn't think about that. Gee, thanks for bringing up the obvious. I should have gotten a child care for my child. Oh, wait, I couldn't. It was last minute and you forced me to come to work. And I love that growth in this dynamic because, like you said, their chemistry is better now, that her comedic acting and her comedic timing is so much better.
Yeah. So it kind of makes me wonder if it wasn't, might have been the writing, or also might have been the direction that they were being given at the beginning of just whoever was directing them did not understand either their talents or who the characters were.
Yeah.
But I also really enjoyed this episode being like, oh yeah, Taran Killam's definitely here somewhere.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, he's somewhere. I don't know.
Because he's like, what about the kid's dad? And she's like, he was busy. We couldn't get Taran for this episode.
Yeah, no, that's definitely what it was. Also, I do have logistical questions about how many baseball games Morgan had to watch.
Oh, for the catchphrase thing?
Yeah. Because I've watched a fair amount of baseball games in my time. And let me tell you, they're long.
They're long and boring.
So,
I grew up with a grandfather who always had baseball on. And if it wasn't baseball season, he had football or golf on. And it was just sports to me have always been boring when on television, unless it's hockey or basketball. Every other sport I feel is very boring. So I can't imagine having to go through that much footage of baseball games.
Yeah. And also, I can't believe that Morgan could have watched enough in that time frame. Like, even if you did an all-nighter, you still couldn't watch that many games of baseball.
Yeah.
But the episode does not want us to think about that.
No, we're suspending our disbelief on that one.
Also, I really enjoyed the victim's not living girlfriend, who has this like really delightful like femme fatale energy.
Yeah.
That like traditionally just isn't given to Black women, aren't allowed that kind of like character dynamic, and I think it's especially the way the actress is playing it. It's really good. Yeah, just that kind of mysterious. Oh, maybe I killed him. Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, just that kind of there's that kind of gravitas that all like femme fatales have.
Yep.
Where they're like trying to drag you into their orbit, but also they're dangerous. And she kind of has that, and I think Melanie LeBird does like a really good job at that.
And I appreciated this episode's going back to Adam, where he starts to really bond with the victim's son, and he's like, again, this goes to the growth of the character, where we feel and understand his emotional response to this particular case, and we're like, oh, so you are human after all. Like, you do have compassion for people.
Yeah, it's really good in that way to like see more of his interiority. And honestly, just to let him be a character.
Right.
Because, as we said, so many people on the show are just flat out not characters.
They're just there.
They're just there.
Like the other two detectives.
Yeah, the other two detectives just absolutely not characters. Glorified extras. Like, I hate to keep, ringing this bell, but it's like, you gotta find something to do with them. Like, this can't have been the thing that you got these actors for. I just can't believe that. Otherwise, why are you wasting Javicia Leslie like this? Why? Explain it to me. Let's move on to our next show, which is Abbott Elementary, Season 4, Episode 10, entitled Testing. You know what? I did kind of enjoy Janine just being a crazy person again.
I get Janine's anxiety. She's like, what do you mean I've been teaching these students all year and they're failures? She's like, I do not accept it. It is not my fault. It is the test environment situations. She reaches a point in this episode that nobody wants to be around her, not even Gregory. Gregory's just like, you need to stop.
Stop. No, I really enjoyed that of like him continuously giving her advice, and she just go, no. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the through line of this episode of teachers just trying to figure out like what their students want, how to serve their students, of like, Janine trying to figure out the testing, and Jacob trying to figure out how best to serve his student.
Yeah, the one that does not give a crap.
Yeah.
He's like, I know, I will figure this out. And it's like, sometimes, Jacob, there isn't an answer. Sometimes they just don't care.
Sometimes they just don't want to be there. I was one of those students. I just didn't want to be there. And there's nothing you can do about that.
They don't want to be at school, but they also don't want to be at home. There's no like fixing it. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
and you know that, like, on one hand, yes, Jacob is doing this because Jacob's just a compassionate person who just really wants the best for his students. But there's a bigger part of Jacob that wants to do it for the accolades that he'll get for figuring it out and solving this problem. He thinks that it's going to get him all the claps on the back that he wants. And it's like, at what point did you stop doing it for the student and kept doing it for yourself?
Right. Well, and I don't even know if it's that. It's simply that Jacob just doesn't know how to help himself. Like, you just can't help himself sometimes. Like the going up,
like with the SEPTA bus driver.
Yeah, exactly. Of like, I just gotta talk to you, and I gotta be your friend, and I just gotta keep talking. And there's just like that part of Jacob just like, it's that John Mulaney joke of like, I need people everywhere I go to like me so much. And that's just Jacob in a nutshell. So yeah, like I do think he wants that validation, but it's also it is selfish, I think. It is like, but I don't know if it's like external. You know what I mean? I think it's he wants to feel good about himself that he did this.
Yeah, I laughed hysterically though when the SEPTA bus driver was like, "Oh, the strike has occurred. Oh, okay. Well, that means you've got to get off the bus." And he uses it as a ploy to get Jacob the fuck out of his face. And then he quickly says to the rest of the people, "No, no, no, you don't have to get off. The strike has started for him, not for me."
Also, great guest star role from Eric Andre, just following Mr. Johnson around.
Yeah,
Just delightful. And this show hates no character more than Morton. And this episode brings up a very important question: how rich is Ava?
you know, I don't think it matters. Because here's the thing, I don't think she's as rich as she thinks she is, or as she puts on airs about.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it is really just her personality of trying to seem cooler and richer than she actually is.
But also, Ava should have so much more game than she has in this episode. I don't think I can remember the last time a character threw themselves at another character as much as this man throws himself at Ava.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fully entertaining. But also, Ava, get it together.
Girl, we know you have game. Like, what is going on here?
What is this?
But I kind of like that it's finally like moving somewhere, because I like that character, and I like that he is infatuated with Ava. I think it's cute, and I could see it potentially becoming a serious thing.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to our next show, Skeleton Crew, season 1, episode 8, the real good guys, since it's the season finale. And our prediction did not come true. But what did you think about this?
It was good. I appreciated that it was a decent send off for the show. I still felt like we could have gotten more out of the episode, but that's just me.
Yeah, I did have a certain point during the episode where I was like, this is underwhelming. That I did have to like sit back and go, what am I wanting out of this that it isn't giving me?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I guess nothing. It's just me. I get the problem here is not Skeleton Crew. The problem is me.
Right. I agree with that assessment.
Because what it's doing is perfectly good. You know, it's hitting all the kinds of beats that I would want this show to hit.
Yep.
So if it's not working, I don't know that that's on the show. Just this once, I don't think it's on the show.
Right. Like I said, everything that happened, it's like, yeah, that's a decent way to end this show. But I personally wanted more out of it. And so I'm like, okay, this is a me problem. This is not a show problem. This is I'm expecting more out of this than we're probably going to ever get.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate that we got to see them continue to be a team even though they were home.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. And I liked the explanation of Jod and his, relationship with Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And how it explains that. Like, I thought that was really good. And unlike any other like Jedi backstory that I've heard so far in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where it's all like the context for it's all, post Clone Wars, post Fall of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew a Jedi who was on the run,
Yep.
And I have these powers. So I thought that was really well done. I know that they filmed a flashback.
Oh?
Yeah, they cast. I know that they cast an actress for it, and she had like a whole scene with young Jod. They eventually ended up cutting out, but it would have been cool to see that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of sad that they cut that out because the actress. I saw the actress talking about it online, and she seemed genuinely excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that sucks.
It does, but also I wonder if like it's not something that they ultimately was like, it's not necessarily necessary
Right.
to tell the story. It would just be, which again, sometimes added fluff, quote unquote, is nice to have, but I could see why they probably potentially cut it.
And I can imagine if they have a second season of this that they'll probably use that footage.
But all in all, it was a very good finale.
Yeah, but no, I just looked up the post from the actress, and yeah, it sucks. I knew there was a part of this that I was forgetting. I was like, it sucks even more because she's a Palestinian, and she was super excited about it, and it would have been like Arab female Jedi.
Yeah,
which would have been really cool.
It would have been really, really cool.
Do we want to see a second season of this?
I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know. I feel like this kind of closed it out pretty decently. That if we never get anything else, I'll be fine.
Right.
But I mean, I wouldn't say no to another one.
Let's continue on to our last show of the week, which is Silo, Season 2, Episode 10, titled Into the Fire.
Okay, I have to ask you, when we got to the last section of the episode, did you have to double check to make sure it was still the show?
I knew it was still the show, but I was like, what are we doing now? Yeah, it was very interesting. It is maybe the most lost finale of a show that I've seen in a while, where it's just like this little button at the end where I'm going, what is going on?
Right. I was literally sitting there. I was like, wait a minute. And I like literally did the up arrow on my remote to show how much time was left on an episode to double check that it hadn't switched over to something else because it was so drastically different than what had just been on screen that I was like, did I like blank out for a hot second and miss the opening titles of a new show? Like,
yeah, I knew
took
I
me
knew
a
it was still
minute.
the show I was watching. I was just like, why are you showing us this? And I still don't know why it was showing us this, other than just like flavor.
I read some Reddit theories on it because I was curious, and a lot of people on Reddit seem to think that this was showing us who, potentially showing us who could have created the silo system
Right.
because they refer to him specifically as an engineer. And we know that someone had to have created these silos. Well, who would create something like that? An engineer would.
Right.
And so it raises the question of what is the time span between this guy sitting in a bar talking to her about a dirty bomb to the world being what we know the silo world? And also, are the silos really, like, where are the silos? Are they, is it where these people were at a bar in, or like, it's very, very convoluted on when it is and where it is. Like, we know the bar scene is in DC because we see the Capitol building, but we don't really know where the silos are. So it's like, okay, are they really in a post-apocalyptic world, or are we just being led to believe it's a post-apocalyptic world and this is like some experiment or something? Like, who knows? But
Right.
like, it definitely sets up another season really well.
Yes, definitely. And also, I know that Mo Ryan was talking about this on Blue Sky this week, but why isn't Jessica Henwick in a million different things? Like, she's so charming.
Yeah.
Like, why has her career not taken off? Because when the guy is sitting across from her at the table, and she's just talking to him, I'm like, God, she is so charming. I was like, who is this? I was like, oh, it's Jessica Henwick, of course. Yeah, she should. Like, why? At the very least, why has she not been in like a billion like rom coms? Because like she's so good at this. Yeah, her 5 minutes is just so delightful. I appreciate the way that this show can just give us a Pez dispenser and it be so sinister.
Yeah.
Show us a Pez dispenser the same way that other shows would like present a gun, which is just so fascinating and such like a testament to like how lived in the show is.
Absolutely. And also, like, the other part of this finale that really like stuck with me was Dr. Nichols and his ultimate sacrifice for the greater good, because it just made me realize that like this is a character that has come so far since that first episode, and it's like you wanted to see him reunite with his daughter because this whole season he's shown how much he loves his daughter, even if he didn't ever really say it to her. And you just want them to have that face to face moment because they deserve it. And the sad part is that it's never going to happen.
No, and
Um,
it's also
and it's just such compelling storytelling.
yeah. Well, and it's also a death that maybe doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just the real tragedy of like this war. Yeah, it's very compelling and it's very watchable and it's like yeah, it's good television, but also if Juliet got there an hour earlier, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, and the going back to it might not even really matter. He dies thinking that his death is going to matter.
Right.
And that's so ultimately tragic because, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. And it's not going to. That should Juliet survive, which, let's be real, she most likely will. There's not really a show without the character of Juliet.
No.
It's not going to change the fact that this silo is a ticking time bomb.
Right. Yeah, that's also the thing I love about Lucas in this episode, where he's just like,
Hmm.
nothing matters. This is all pointless.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen is gonna happen.
And I really do appreciate, like, he has that moment of clarity when he talks to Bernard, and then he carries that clarity with him clear up to Sims barging into his apartment and putting a gun on him and his mother. And he's like, whatever, dude, shoot us, don't shoot us. That's your choice. It's not going to change the fact that I know everything and I know this is all going to end badly.
Yeah. Also, Sims, a character who takes L upon L continuously.
Yeah. I he okay, first of all, you were given the passcode to IT under the guise that you would not take anybody else to the vault with you. And you bring your wife and son, and then the AI says, well, you and your son can walk on out of here. We want to talk to your wife. And it's like, bro had the code, and he doesn't even get to know the information.
TV's biggest loser. Just
Like, Sims, what was all that loyalty worth to you? Because it sure ain't paying out.
oh god, but that line of from Bernard of you were really loyal until you weren't.
Right, exactly. Also, the Redditors brought up a really good point also of, that final scene with Juliet and Bernard where the flames erupt and they're like, we don't know who is, if they're going to survive or whatever. And someone had commented on this thread saying, well, we know that Juliet is safe because, she's got the plot armor on her. Plus, she also has a suit that's red with reflective tape, which makes us think firefighting and probably a flame resistant suit of some kind because it's not the same as the white suits. It's
Right.
a suit, but it's not the same as the white suits. So clearly her suit is different. But someone else pointed out, yes, but the same could be potentially said about Bernard, that like you can't have Juliet without a main antagonist, and the only really good antagonist is Bernard. So we can't kill either of them.
No, and because Bernard is the most direct parallel to Juliet.
Yep.
Right? He in like a very strange, macabre way, he is her opposite.
Yes.
Like he is her mirror.
They're the antithesis of each other.
Exactly.
But also, like, I feel like the show wouldn't be the same without Tim Robbins. Like, Tim Robbins just has this aura about him that adds to the sinisterness of Bernard's character because and we've talked about this prior in other episodes, where there is a part of Bernard that you understand.
Right.
You're like, I understand your motivation behind this decision. I understand why you did it. I don't like that you did it, but I understand it. And we have to have that from an antagonist because it makes the story matter.
Right. Well, and it also makes it worth it when you have every scene of Bernard just, basically being a cartoonishly evil villain, like practically like twirling his mustache and like rubbing his hands together.
The scene with him and Walker in this episode where she's in his office and she's basically saying to him, "You thought you had me, but I screwed you over by using our secret mechanical language that you don't know what we said." And I love that about her. But then he looks at her like, "Oh, you think that I haven't won? Well, I have, because look at that. You were counting down and nothing happened."
Tim Robbins is just exceptional.
Mm-hmm.
Just amazing. Also, but like also so is Rebecca Ferguson.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
when she's yelling at the kids in the other silo, it's amazing.
Yeah.
There are some actors who are just so good at yelling, and it works because Juliet is calm 99% of the time, and it's just
I wouldn't be surprised if we were to find out that Juliet constantly imbibes in marijuana slash THC because of how calm she is all
yeah,
the
she
time.
is
Like
superhuman
nothing
calm.
really phases
Yeah,
her. But then, but when she does have a moment, you can viscerally feel it through the screen,
yes,
and it's phenomenal.
yeah, yeah. Well, like I love the moments where like you can feel Rebecca Ferguson almost lose the grasp of the accent she has.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she just hangs on to it by like the skin of her teeth.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not fucking losing this accent. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
how screamy I get right now. I'm not losing it. Yeah, because like her accent work is so interesting because it's like some mix between like an American accent and the accent that her dad has, and it's just like she has that balance so well that like when she starts screaming, you can like you can really feel it.
Yeah.
But no, that the line her dad has of like something like I would tell her that she's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, you know what? Most of the times when parents say that, it's not true. This is perhaps the one case where he says that, and it is 100% an objective fact of the universe.
Yeah.
She is the most perfect person who has ever existed in every form imaginable. But like her triumphant return, like over the hill on the video screen, is tremendous. Like it's a small thing, but it's also like it is that knowledge in the universe and in character and like out of universe. It's like she should be dead.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, this is a superhuman being in front of us. you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a Messiah character coming back from the dead, you
Yeah.
know?
Absolutely. And I appreciate different the difference in reaction to her cleaning the screen. Obviously there's clear, and it also further proving that just because the rebellion has started and then they find out some truth doesn't mean that there is control on the situation at all.
No.
Because the leaders of the rebellions are very much learning that you cannot control human nature when there's a fire lit in some people, because some people take it beyond what was expected slash planned for, and that is shown in this episode.
Yeah, no, it's the perfect follow up to what Juliet's dad says early in the season of like you can't control what Juliet means to other people.
Yep.
And like this is just like the logical extension of that. I do think part of the reason why we feel so good about the end of this season is the very explicit knowledge we have that like we have 2 more seasons coming down the pipeline.
Yep.
And probably quickly,
Right.
Or like I think they're filming the 3rd season, I think already,
Mm-hmm.
and they're writing the 4th one, so it's like there's a kind of safety in like we're in good hands, where
Right.
otherwise I think we'd be like nervous,
Yeah, if we didn't have a renewal already in the books, I would have looked at this finale and been like, okay, this is frustrating because we don't know for sure if we're going to get the answers.
Yeah. So the knowledge that we're getting a 3rd and 4th season, I think really helps with our enjoyment here. But yeah, that's Silo season 2.
Yep, season 2. It's pretty good.
Pretty good. And that's our episode. Next week, I don't think we have anything big plan to talk about. But we will keep you all informed. Until next week, Mads, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at DorothyNYC89, Blue Sky at DorothyNYC89, and that's about it these days. I mean, Tumblr too, I guess, Mads World 15, but I've kind of pulled back on Instagram and Facebook.
You can find me everywhere at Drew Koenig, and you can find some of my writing at Hidden Remote, where I'm currently recapping and reviewing Doc every week. I almost started recapping Yellow Jackets, but I was too late. Tragic for me. I saw it too late, and then someone else took it. I was like, God damn it. It's fine. I'm not upset about it. You can find previous episodes of the podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, along with whatever other podcatching device you use. Plus our Libsyn feed at libsyn.com/NotOnTV Podcasts. That has our full podcast directory. Be sure to leave us a review and subscribe on whatever way you're listening to the podcast. You can email us at notonatvpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, or questions you may have about the show. Until next week, please remember, don't go in the ocean. None of your business.